Welcome back to Sun Up on 7. Just before the break, in case you missed it, you need to go back because Couch Talk was extremely hot. Like I said, bun your tongue and all of that with all the way I had to sip just now. But no, we have the Honorable Kevin Herrera, who is the Senator for Businesses. And he'll be here discussing via Zoom the sickouts, the mass sickouts due to Omicron, and his predictions on how we go forward. But good, we would like to welcome him. Mr. Herrera, are you hearing us? Not hearing us.
Your microphone is not on, Mr. Herrera.
Yes. Hi, good morning. I'm sorry about that.
Good morning, Honorable Herrera. Welcome to Sun Up on 7. Thank you for being here. How are you doing this morning?
Doing very well. Thanks for having me. Good morning.
Okay, so let's get right into this because, Omicron is here and we're now seeing the effects on our society. Could you tell us more about the sickouts that's been happening?
Sure. I think first of all, is that I think Omicron is certainly a big reason for concern. The fact that it is so it's transmitted in a way it is being transmitted, highly contagious. I think certainly brings a lot of concerns to everyone. I think the business sector, the healthcare sector, all those areas, will be hit very hard and is being hit very hard by Omicron from all the reports we're getting. And so I think, I think we just need to, go back to what we've been doing all this while, mask wearing, social distancing, being sensible about the whole situation. I think there's no way of getting around that. I mean, we don't have that silver bullet. The closest we have is the vaccinations. And, while the numbers have been going up, I think that, we'd still want to be a lot better than we are. We'd still like to be farther along than where we are right now with vaccinations. But it's what it is. We'll just have to continue trying to protect ourselves as best we can. But it is having an impact. Companies are reporting persons being sick all the time. I heard of one establishment where, half of their cashiers were out.
Oh, wow.
But I would suspect, you're looking at 5-10% across the board, with respect to persons being sick. And I think, my feeling is that we'll probably be looking at this for the next month and a half, until when, if we judge from previous experiences when a new variant comes up. So let's prepare for the worst, but let's keep our fingers crossed as well that, if we do the right thing, if we continue to be careful, if we continue to be respectful of the dangers of this variant, I think that we can get over it a little earlier than we would hope.
Most definitely. Senator, I want to ask, because you mentioned something in your answer about businesses saying their employees are always calling in that they're sick. So in the essence of this, the whole sick outs and people now knowing, if I have this stuff, if I stuff here, that kind of idea of any kind of flu-like symptom, I can be able to call in sick. Does this not give excuse or advantage to people who say, I just don't want to go to work, I want to just call in sick, I just want to take a little time off or something like that? Is that not something that gives a gateway to that?
There'll always be persons who abuse the system, but the thing is what it is. We also have respectable workers out there as well, and who will make sure that, they do the right thing. Generally, we don't want anyone in the offices who are sick. It can be a flu, but it can also be the virus, and so we don't want to take a chance until when someone has been tested. In some cases, persons are able to work from home, but in other cases, they have to be at their work site to work. And so there are two things. There are two situations there. I think many of them would not be able to work while they're working from home. And so, while they may be able to take that sick out, there's also other concerns that I'm hoping everyone will keep in mind. It's a cost.
Very true.
It really affects the business ability to offer services when all their personnel are not in. It's not like it's not like businesses hire a surplus of persons to do any one function. I mean, you get the employees you need.
Yeah.
And so when those employees are out, it does handicap the business to a certain extent. And so I'm hoping that people will be responsible about it and will take those days on when needed.
Senator, there's also another concern that I've been hearing as well, where there are certain businesses that are not allowing their employees time off to actually go and get the vaccinations, and then there's some people who say, oh, sniffling, cough, whatever. No, man, we still need you. You need to come back to work. What do you have to say about those businesses?
Generally, and like what I was saying, Anand, is that, we have to be responsible. I don't think anyone would support bringing anyone who is sick unless they've been tested already and they've been proven to or shown not to have contracted the virus. But I think we should all be responsible. And if someone is ill, send them home, make sure they get tested. And if they are tested positive, then stay home for the required period of time that is warranted. But no, I would encourage anyone to be coming to the workplace right now if they're sick. I mean, the stakes are too high right now. The risk is way too high.
But I mean, some of them have even been threatened about being fired for not reporting to work, even though they are sick.
I'll take it even further, Senator. I know of a colleague that told me straight up that their employer, they had to get the PCR test, and before they even got the results, the employer said, "Don't worry about it, just come to work, just come to work." And it's been a thing where it's a recurring issue where people, when there's maybe like a couple people, maybe 5 or so that have contracted COVID, they are just like, okay, everybody else go to work, just go to work. They don't really sanitize like that. They had to have Ministry of Health come in, do and mandatory shut down the place for an entire day so they can get that on track, but they still wanted to resume. So I think there's a problem to also a check-in that needs to happen when it comes to businesses that want to stay open and want to make everything resume, even with Omicron COVID on a rise.
And that's why the oversight is extremely important, I think. And I've spoken, in fact, over the past 2 years, I think we have been interacting with officials from the ministry. And I mean, we've been encouraging them, do spot checks, go into these businesses, see what is happening. I think everyone should have certain levels of protocols established at least the minimum, hopefully even more than what is required.
Yeah.
Simply because it's for our own safety. It's how we protect and keep businesses open. And so I cannot support anyone operating like that. I think that the guidelines are there for a reason. It's there to protect the population. It's there to protect the customers that come in or the clients that come in. And it's there to protect our employees. And so I think it's important that, we follow those. And so anyone who's operating outside of the system, I believe, should be dealt with by the Ministry of Health. They should be inspected and do what needs to be done. But I don't think we should be playing any games with this virus. I think that it's too serious. And the potential impact that it can have on the economy, at the very time when we need to get things going, we shouldn't have any type of tolerance for this type of thing.
Senator, there's a question here that I have where, well, we know now the Ministry of Health is really on the fire right now. It's a house on fire, it's burning, and you're asking for them to enforce the regulations. Now, I understand that as a senator, you represent the people, your sector itself. What would you have to say to the Ministry of Health in that regard, being their current situation that is happening now?
I agree with the commentaries that I was listening to just before I came on. I think that it's extremely important when you're in battle that you have your key personnel, that you have your generals in place. And so, I think that certainly has to be a priority area for the new minister who's coming in. Make sure that you have all your key people in. Make sure that they're managing those areas properly. Make sure that there's a plan, that there's strategy to overcome this. And we don't have to reinvent the wheel. I mean, it's happening to all the other countries as well. And I'm sure you may have some best practice scenarios, many of which I think we have in Belize already.
Yeah.
Because several times you'll note that even though the world was in the throes of the virus in terms of the infection rates, and so Belize in many of those cases were lower than those other countries. So I think we have a lot to draw from, but you need your key personnel in place. And I'm hoping that the minister will come in. I wish him all the best. It is a tough job, like you all said earlier. But there's a lot to be done, and there's a lot that can be done, And I think that having your key people in place is certainly very important. Having the experts who will be guiding you through this process and advising you, I think, is extremely key. And so that will certainly be, should certainly, I think, be the first order of business going in.
Most definitely. Senator, I want to look at the economy now because, as you know, the private sector contributes a lot to our GDP, a lot to the fact that we have money going in our country, circling. And I want to look now at the sick outs. We're going to be having a lot of people not being able to work. And with that idea, that means businesses are going to slow down. And so that's going to start to trickle into how much they produce, how well the services are being carried out, and how much they're going to be making for that time period. So how do you think all of this large sick out is going to play when it comes to our actual economy and how much we are producing as a country?
I'm hoping the impact will not be as great, and certainly not anywhere near when the pandemic was just declared. But yeah. I think it will have an impact. I'm hoping that we'll be able to make minor adjustments in that short 10-day time frame that is required when persons will be absent. But it will have an impact because, like I said, you don't hire a surplus of individuals. You hire persons because you need them.
Yeah.
And so I'm hoping that we'll be able to get by. I'm hoping that it won't be be a prolonged period of time. But let's hope that it doesn't have a serious impact. I see the tourists still coming, and that's very interesting and encouraging. I think that people are continuing to push forward, and I think I support the government very strongly. This is to keep things going. I don't think there's any need for any shutdown again.
Yeah.
I think the world has moved beyond that, and so I think it's just for us to come together, try to make the most of what we have, try to keep people as healthy as possible, and as long as possible, and continue to provide those goods and services that we do.
Most definitely.
All right. And could you see, what is your prediction going forward in terms of sick outs? I mean, we are dealing with some sick outs now, but what would you see with the cases of Omicron? I know you said that, and especially with the way how people are still out there socializing and people are out there still, having a ball.
Living their best life.
Yes. What would you say would be your predictions in that regard as to the working class?
Well, and I'm not an expert in this, but for what I've read, we are not at the peak yet. And so, I think we have to look at that point where we peak and then, hope that things start tapering off from there. But I expect that the situation will continue for a little while longer. I think that I think that we have too many infected people out there, and if with the Delta, I mean, it was expected that one person would infect 3 others. With the Omicron, I think it's higher than that, and so I think if you just look at that simple situation, you know that it will probably get worse before it starts getting better. And so we really have to try to determine when that peak should be and when that peak will be. And then try to manage things from there and try to bring back things to more manageable levels. But until then, I think, the healthcare system will struggle with workers being out. I think that businesses will continue to struggle until we start stabilizing those areas. Interestingly, I was talking to one of the leaders in the tourism industry yesterday, and they were saying that they're getting by. Their bigger challenge was that the flight cancellations, persons being on the airline coming, and then the flight is cancelled, and last minute cancellations for that reason and many others. But they're saying that they're not seeing a huge stick out with respect to their employees, and but again, the tourism sector also has some very strict protocols that they adhere to, and so I think that that's also something I think that we can draw from within the wider business community. That I think that if we implement the protocols as strictly as possible, I think we'll be better off.
Most definitely. I have to agree with you on that, Senator. I think when it comes to businesses, there needs to be a lot more implementation, check-ins, if a business is sanitizing someone's hand, because a lot of businesses don't do that basic thing as when you go into an establishment, they don't sanitize, they don't really worry about the whole mask wearing. I see people sometimes walking to a bathroom and so forth, not wearing their mask. And so I think we really need to crack back on seeing what's happening, because we want all businesses to flourish, but not at the cost of the health of our people. And I think that is something that we're trying to find our little balance, if you want to say it like that, but definitely need to be doing more monitoring and evaluation of what's happening in different businesses, some check-ins. And I think it's a bit hard for the Ministry of Health because they're very overwhelmed with what they are doing right now. So to see maybe if we could have more hands on deck to be able to do that process for them, I think that would be something essential moving forward.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Completely agree. And I think a lot of this stems from attitude, and I think we really need to look at that closely in terms of personal responsibility as well as group responsibility, and I think that where those are absent, then I think it's important that, the authorities step in to make sure that it's happening.
Yeah.
But, you look at it all the time, persons walking out, or someone walking up to you trying to talk to you without their mask, that type of thing is really uncalled for at this point. I think the situation is too serious right now for us to be taking those risks.
For over 1,000 new cases, we're in a point where everybody needs to wear their mask, even if they're asleep or something at this present moment. But I just want
to... That's the only way we'll get over it.
Yes.
I think that persons have to really take personal responsibility. Businesses have to do their part, and that's the only way we'll get through this.
Most definitely.
Right.
I just want to thank you again, Senator, for sharing your time with us. There's definitely a lot of weight that comes on your shoulder representing, the business sector, the private sector, because this is a very important sector in our country to be able to flourish. It provides so many jobs for people, and they have taken a serious hit when it comes to COVID, the lockdowns, and now having all these sick outs. So our prayers are with you too as well to keep it going, manning the ship, because there's a lot of hands that need to be on deck and there's a lot of things that need to be done. So thank you for your time being with us here on the show.
Thank you very much. Take care.
You too. And so with that, we go to our next commercial break. And when we're back, we're going to be talking about Outwork Belize, what that platform holds and how you can be a part. Stay tuned for that conversation.